Tensions on the floor of Congress with Congressman Mike Rogers venting his anger against McCarthy holdout Matt Gaetz. Now, shortly after this, Kevin McCarthy got those votes. He got enough votes to gain the Speaker's gavel, happening shortly after midnight. Let's bring in our political panel to talk about it. With us today is Matt Gorman, a former NRCC Communications Director and Targeted Victory Vice President, and Brad Howard, a Democratic strategist. Boy, that was some fascinating television in those overnight hours. I have to say, it was riveting. I was fascinated by the ultimate outcome, but perhaps even more fascinated by sort of watching the dynamics unfold there, right there before anybody that wanted to watch sort of the sausage being made wide open and some of these negotiations seemingly going on before our very eyes. Matt, I want to start with you because now we're thinking, where do the Republicans go from here? How will they work together? We saw, some of those tensions were pretty stark and striking on the floor. What happens moving forward? Your thought?
Yeah, I certainly didn't expect to be watching C-SPAN at 1 in the morning on a Friday night, but
right.
Alas, at least it was entertaining, as you said. Look, I think it was good that they gavel out of session. Everybody takes the weekend. It seems like you're right. Everybody's locked in a room for too long. It's like the back of a station wagon during a long drive, a family vacation. Just get everybody out. But the thing I'm watching is the rules package. How close is that? Is there a similar amount of tension or fighting among the moderates who don't want to give as much away? That will tell me a lot as we go into the week and more meatier issues are taken up. Watch the rules package.
And now, back across the aisle, Brad, when you see what you saw unfold, there are factions on both sides. Now we're talking about the Freedom Caucus as far as the Republicans are concerned, and also these 6 holdouts that voted present. What will this mean in the coming years as far as Republicans working together? But will they be able to work with Democrats in any way, shape, or form? What do you think will be accomplished, given what we witnessed here in these overnight hours?
Well, I think we saw 2 things. One, I think we saw incredible Democratic unity behind leader Hakeem Jeffries, who's going to be a great leader. He's got some big shoes to fill with Speaker Nancy Pelosi departing the Speaker role, but Hakeem Jeffries held his caucus together along with Catherine Clark and Pete Aguilar and Jim Clyburn. We've got great leaders in the Democratic caucus. The second being, we've long talked about the fissures within the Republican conference, particularly in the House, and those fissures came out on full display throughout this process. Like, as a political junkie, it was great to see this democracy kind of happen and unfold in real time and live action, but it's also very troubling because it's going to signify what's going to happen over the next 2 years, and Kevin McCarthy can only lose 4 votes, and so how is he going to pass appropriations? How is he going to pass a National Defense Authorization Act? These key issues with a Democratic Senate. So we're going to have to House Democratic moderates are going to be the key power brokers here because they are the ones that are willing to stand up and work with Republicans. And I hope Speaker McCarthy turns to the moderate Democrats and asks for help to govern.
There was some talk in those overnight hours that Democrats would ultimately be the ones that bring McCarthy across the finish line, and that there would be some compromise going on. Didn't end up needing that to happen. But Matt, I do want to bring you in on something Brad was talking about, that some of the accusations coming from the Democratic side of the aisle is that extremists are now controlling the party, that it's this wing of people that need to be reined in, and that Kevin McCarthy won't be able to do it. Your thoughts on that?
Well, it's easy to be united when you're in the minority. As Kevin said when he took the rostrum, he got 100% of the votes when he was running for Speaker, technically last Congress when Pelosi won. Look, I think what you're going to see, candidly, is this fight needed to happen. We had been papering over it for essentially a decade, since Boehner came in, and Boehner and Ryan tap danced around it. Trump kind of papered over or delayed it because the power was on the other end of Pennsylvania Avenue. And look, I think having the fight up front might have helped things. It released some of the pressure, and you got some of those rules changes, which, look, could help some of those things pass the chamber as we get a little bit later in the NDAA, debt ceiling, and the like.
Brad, you get the first crack at our next topic. President Biden is finally, and I say finally because his critics will say it's already taken too long, but finally heading down to the border and has announced some changes as far as immigration policies that he feels he could put into effect. Your thoughts on this trip?
Look, I think it shows that border security and comprehensive immigration reform are top priorities for this White House. The president is going down there and then on to Mexico, the first president to go to Mexico in a decade. And so I think the southern border is something that's plagued presidents in the modern era. It is a massive problem. We've got to deal with it. The president has rolled out a plan to address it, including more resources to the border, more resources to stop the drug trafficking that's coming in, and a more humane asylum and immigration system. The problem is the president can only do so much. You need a comprehensive immigration reform package through Congress, and that requires bipartisan cooperation, and we've yet to see any indication from Republicans that they're ready to do any kind of earnest bipartisan negotiations.
All right, Matt, bringing you in here, is this too late of a trip for Biden? Should he have done this sooner? And your reaction to really his constant blame placed on Republicans for not being willing to work with Democrats and make a deal on immigration. Your thoughts, Matt?
Oh, we should have done it far sooner. And look, if I didn't want to get attention to this trip, I would do it exactly like how Biden is doing it. Look, no offense, people aren't following the news as closely on a weekend during the NFL season on a Sunday as they would be, say, during the week if he did this trip on, say, Monday. I think he also was hoping that there'd be more infighting among Republicans with the speaker vote so he could kind of get them distracted a little bit. He's clearly trying to kind of slip it in under the radar, check that box, because, look, he doesn't have an answer for the border. There is essentially no border security, and he's been trying to kind of appease his left wing. And it's very clear it's just not a priority for his administration.
I'd point out that his plan that he released took some flack from the far left, so he is standing up to the far left elements of his party.
I think it's telling, though, that he's continuing.
Yeah, both sides sending some criticism towards the president on this plan, and we'll see ultimately where he goes on the border, if it makes a big impact on him, because he has yet to be there. So perhaps the folks down there will make an impact on where this goes in the future. Matt Gorman, Brad Howard, thank you both so much. Really appreciate you joining me on these two very big news topics.